The Viking expansion. Between the late 8th and early 11th centuries, a group of Scandinavian seafarers, known as the Vikings, transformed the social, cultural, and political landscape of Europe. Often portrayed as ruthless raiders with horned helmets and battle axes, the Vikings were far more complex than the stereotypes suggest. Although raiding was undoubtedly a part of Viking culture, recent historical research has uncovered a wealth of evidence showing their contributions to trade, exploration, and settlement across Europe, Asia, and even parts of North America. This passage will explore the Viking expansion, its causes, the nature of Viking society, and the lasting influence of these remarkable people. Historians have proposed various theories to explain why the Vikings left their homelands in Scandinavia. One of the leading explanations is overpopulation, harsh climatic conditions, and limited arable land in regions such as Norway, Sweden, and Denmark forced the Vikings to look elsewhere for resources. As family farms were handed down through generations, land became divided into increasingly smaller parcels, leading younger sons to seek their fortunes abroad. Economic motivations also played a significant role. At the time, Scandinavian society was deeply hierarchical, with wealth and social standing closely tied to ownership of land and resources. Raiding and trading offered alternative routes to wealth and prestige, and a successful Viking expedition could lead to social mobility. Additionally, advances in shipbuilding technology allowed the Vikings to travel farther and faster than their predecessors. The longships they designed were lightweight, agile, and seaworthy, making it possible for them to navigate both open seas and shallow rivers, enabling them to reach remote inland settlements across Europe. Furthermore, a number of political factors drove Viking expansion. Scandinavia was a patchwork of tribal kingdoms, often at war with one another. Young warriors sought adventure and wealth through raids, rather than getting entangled in internal conflicts. The weakness of neighboring European regions, such as the fractured state of the Carolingian Empire, also created an environment in which Viking raids and settlements could thrive. While Viking society is often depicted as exclusively violent, recent discoveries have revealed a more nuanced picture. The Vikings had a rich social, cultural, and economic life that extended far beyond raiding. Their communities were organized in a way that blended martial prowess with complex political systems, thriving trade networks, and diverse cultural practices. Socially, Viking society was structured into several distinct classes, with jarls, nobles, at the top, followed by carls, freemen, and thralls, slaves. At the bottom, jarls were typically wealthy landowners who wielded significant power and commanded respect. Carls formed the backbone of Viking society and were mainly farmers, traders, and craftsmen. While thralls had limited rights, they could sometimes earn or buy their freedom, highlighting a degree of social mobility not seen in some other contemporary societies. Women in Viking society also enjoyed more rights and responsibilities than in many other cultures of the time. Women could own property, inherit wealth, and in some cases even file for divorce. Saga literature. The traditional Viking storytelling medium contains accounts of strong, influential women, illustrating that gender roles in Viking society were more complex than initially assumed. Economically, the Vikings were skilled traders. They established a vast trade network that stretched from the British Isles and the Frankish Empire to the Byzantine Empire and the Caliphate of Baghdad. Archaeological finds have unearthed items from as far away as Central Asia, and the Middle Eastern Viking settlements, suggesting that Viking trade routes were both extensive and lucrative. This trade introduced new goods, ideas, and cultural influences to Scandinavia, enriching Viking life and connecting them to a wider world. In addition to raiding, Vikings were accomplished explorers who ventured far beyond Scandinavia. Perhaps the most famous Viking settlement was established in 793 AD on the British island of Lindisfarne, an event often marked as the beginning of the Viking Age. However, the Vikings did not limit their exploration to Western Europe. By sailing down rivers like the Volga and the Dnieper, they reached as far as Constantinople and even Baghdad. Known as Varangians in the East, these Vikings engaged in trade, served as mercenaries, and influenced local cultures. One of the most significant Viking explorations occurred around the year 1000 AD, when Leif Erikson and his crew sailed to North America, landing in an area they called Vinland, likely located in modern-day Newfoundland, Canada. Erikson's journey predates Christopher Columbus by nearly 500 years. While the settlement in Vinland was short-lived, it demonstrated the remarkable navigational skills of the Vikings and their willingness to explore unknown lands. Vikings also settled more permanently in regions such as Iceland, Greenland, and the British Isles. In the British Isles, they established several settlements and engaged in intermarriage with the local population. This led to a significant cultural exchange, with Viking language, customs, and legal systems blending with those of the Anglo-Saxons. Many place names in the British Isles still bear Viking influence today, with terms like by, village, and thorp, hamlet, originating from Old Norse. The Viking Age gradually came to an end by the 11th century due to a variety of factors. One of the most influential was the Christianization of Scandinavia. As European kingdoms and the Church expanded their influence northward, Christian missionaries converted Scandinavian kings and nobility, encouraging a shift away from the traditional Norse belief systems that had long been integral to Viking culture. With the spread of Christianity, Viking practices such as raiding became increasingly discouraged, and a more sedentary, agrarian lifestyle emerged. Additionally, European nations had grown stronger and more capable of defending themselves against Viking incursions. By the 11th century, countries like England, France, and Germany had more unified and organized military forces, making it harder for the Vikings to conduct successful raids. Economic changes also played a role, as Scandinavia became wealthier and more connected to Europe. Trade began to replace raiding as a primary means of generating wealth. The influence of the Vikings on European culture and history is profound and enduring. Viking advancements in shipbuilding, navigation, and trade left an indelible mark on maritime history. Their settlements and interactions with other cultures helped shape the development of many regions, particularly in the British Isles, Russia, and Iceland. In fact, the legal and administrative systems the Vikings established in their colonies influenced the formation of governments in places like England and Ireland. The Vikings also left a linguistic legacy. Many English words such as sky, knife, and husband are derived from Old Norse, illustrating the depth of the Viking impact on the English language. Their mythology and sagas have also inspired literature, art, and popular culture, with figures like Odin, Thor, and Loki remaining iconic symbols to this day. In summary, while popular culture often emphasizes the Vikings as fearsome raiders, their legacy is far more complex. They were not only warriors but also explorers, traders, and settlers who left an indelible mark on history. Their contributions to exploration, culture, and governance have had a lasting impact, making the Vikings one of the most fascinating and influential groups in European history.